Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello, welcome to episode 7 of this year's Across the Park podcast. Judgy, we won. We won. How are you feeling?
Oh, I'm relieved, shocked. Yeah, a little bit speechless, but I'm sure we'll take that off in the next half an hour.
You know what, I'm not too sure whether it's bonus points in relation to the additional 2 that I maybe looked upon these fixtures and said I'd love 1 point, and we'll get into that. But before we do, thanks as always for everyone watching Across the Park podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us a great deal. We do apologise, we're remote. Mine and Judgy's schedules are just a little bit ski-whiff this week. We will be back next week in the studio. We've ensured ourselves of that. Big thanks as always to our sponsors, Globe Gas and Heating, their clothing, and a big shout out to Alfie Squad. We're so proud to be part of Alfie Squad. They're popping up everywhere, doing little bits and bobs, some great nights down at Everton in the community as well. Really proud of Alison and Alfie. Judgy, when I'm watching Saturday's game, and I've got my cold bottle of beer, which I've also brought tonight, the privilege of doing a remote show, I was really impressed by James Garner, really impressed by him. And the manager said after the game that he sort of told Jimmy, as he calls him, to just go and get the ball. Don't worry about, at times, positional awareness and where you are. Go and get the ball, impact the game. And he did that so well Saturday night, didn't he?
Yeah, he was outstanding. I was looking forward to seeing him in that position against Doncaster, but it didn't really work out that night, obviously, for a number of reasons. The team performance was awful, not to mention James Garner's individual performance. But we've said, and I think we've recognised since he came into the team, that he offers us something that the other midfielders don't. He's technically excellent. He reads the game very well, certainly in possession. He's got a range of passing that those other players haven't got, and he sees passes again that other players don't. But I think where he has been left wanting a little bit is sometimes physically, if he's in that midfield.
That's fair.
Do maybe some of the work that the other midfielders do particularly well off the ball, but you can't question his work ethic. Certainly on the pitch, he covers the grass. But when you do give him the ball and certainly in possession, he's a lot more capable of making things happen. And he showed that in abundance at the weekend.
What did you make of the role that he played? Because we looked at our socials and our before kickoff and a mixed reaction to how we set up. It looks on paper you've dropped a winger for maybe a safe option. It didn't. We didn't set up that way. On paper we did, but in the game, what did you make of the actual setup and the formation, the positional play?
To me, if you reflect on it now, particularly now that Deitch has almost opened up and said that it was, it was in a free role. It was almost like a 4-4-2, like diamonds, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And James Garner being that, Decore almost plays up top with Beto and alongside, Calvert-Lewin. They were almost both given free roles, Decore and James Garner, because Decore's job was to get obviously as close to the striker and get beyond the striker, whereas James Garner's job was to come in from the right and get behind the striker. So I think to a certain extent they both got given free roles in that sense. And the fact that Ashley Young obviously is a lot more able and capable of getting forwards on that right hand side, and Mikolenko doesn't, that kind of made the balance quite effective as well. And it's not something, a fluid formation is not something that you necessarily associate with Sean Dyche, but he's clearly picked up, as any decent coach or manager should, on our shortcomings over the last few weeks, which is amongst most things has been players not really getting in the box often enough, and us not really looking like a threat, not really looking like we had any idea. And from his perspective, and he obviously confirmed it after the game, he thought that one player who could create things, make things happen, could combine and link up with players was James Garner, and he gave him that license to do so, and it paid dividends. But we've got to mention the performance of Decore. I thought he was outstanding. Obviously, he was given man of the match, but the difference he made in terms of just general aggressiveness, off the ball, as in, when he's chasing after things and pressing the ball, but in possession, his willingness to be that runner so often, off Beto and off Calvert-Lewin when he came on. I thought he made such a difference. And I think what was a breath of fresh air for Decore, again, referring back to James Garner, he wasn't expected to be that player to go and create things. It was like, no, I'm going to get on the ends of it. And that was something that we always remember. I certainly remember being so good at when he was at Watford, was just literally getting on the ends of things and being a nuisance. But, when he's playing in that, when he has been playing in that attacking midfield role, and he's getting the ball and he's expected to play passes in behind and be cute with his play, it's just not him, and he's been found wanting a few times. So I think he almost relished having that pressure off his back.
Do you know what the biggest compliment I can give to Corey is I felt like there was two of them on Saturday. You watching us attack, and he was involved in almost every attack, whether it be a diagonal ball, which he hit the crossbar from, which was a very, very quick move. Obviously his goal. But then when we did find ourselves under pressure, which wasn't a lot, I thought the whole team performance was really good. But there was a short spell in the first half where I thought, oh no, they've just equalised, and just a guy makes a mistake and we get that off with a good Tarkowski clearance. But he seems to be so involved in the defensive side of things now. I'm watching the game going, you're almost like a number 10, and now you're so adaptable that you can come back as a number 6. I thought he was everywhere, judging for me, literally everywhere.
That's why, again, I do think that they were almost both given a free role. So when I say the diamond, you had obviously Garner Guy at the base of the diamond. Now, look, he had an indifferent game. I still think he was a little bit sloppy at times in possession. However, he played 2 cracking balls through to Beto in the first half that on another day could have both got us goals. So you'd had him at the bottom of the diamond. But him and Arna rotated a few times, and Arna was dropping in every now and again and allowing Guy to get forwards and almost in that right-hand channel. So them two are kind of sharing that deeper role on the right-hand side of the diamonds. On the left-hand side of the diamond, John McNeil, who was terrific. I thought him and Garner were pulling the strings. Both technically very good players, but both players who lack in that pace. But I think where they really benefited and flourished was because the midfielders were all playing so close together. They were able to make quick, short passes and open up lines really easily. And then you had the pace and physicality of Beto, Decore, and then later on Calvert-Lewin. And I thought, that made us so effective on the break, which was great to see us looking like a real threat in the counter-attack. And the last time, and it's been compared with this game several times in the last few days, the last time we looked that effective on the break or that effective going forward was Brighton away last season.
Yeah, agree. I don't want to get into who should play, who's better. I don't think we're at the right time for that, but the natural argument now is that Calvert-Lewin comes on and he not only plays well, but he scores a goal. I personally think Beto was largely responsible for Abdoulaye Decore being able to have the role that he played, that the Brentford defenders looked at Beto. Yes, he should have scored. He had a really good chance in the first half. The natural argument and the natural discussion between fans, if you don't play them together and you want to keep this formation that was so successful on Saturday, is we go into some important home league games, especially now. Is there a real big argument now that Dominic Calvert-Lewin starts the next few games for you?
There's an argument. I don't think it's a big one. I think it's hard to start a game as a forward, as a lone forward, and to win those battles, to establish that position, to help shape that the way that we played. I thought Beto had the more difficult job coming in from the start, and I thought he made it look easy. The link-up play was outstanding. I thought he was a willing runner. And I still think that he offers us things that Calvert-Lewin does in terms of him receiving the ball on the half turn and being able to drive at defenders, which I don't think Calvert-Lewin does naturally. I think now, and I don't want to be too dramatic about this, and I'm sure Evertonians will understand where they're coming from. You look at what Eddie Howe's been doing with Isak and Wilson.
And Wilson, yeah.
2 very similar forwards in that sense. I mean, I wouldn't say that Beto is Isak level, but I think you understand what I mean. You can give and he can play on the half turn and drive at players, and he's got a decent first touch and what have you. Whereas Callum Wilson, you know what you're going to get from him as well, and he's maybe a better goal scorer. He's maybe more direct. He's maybe better in the air, but there's certain games where you would prefer Isak over Wilson and vice versa. And I think what you were probably suggesting at the start of the piece is where I would like to see us go with it. It should be horses for courses now and playing one player. I don't think, and I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, I don't think Calvert-Lewin's fully fit yet. Beto, I think, is in better shape. He's obviously getting close, given the fact that he's played 35 minutes, 2 games on the bounce.
Yeah.
But I still think that you would select Beto to lead the line, almost to break that defence in. And I really think he needs that goal as well. I think he will see a lot more from him from a confidence point of view once he gets his first league goal. But I would still be leaning towards Beto starting the game and Calvert-Lewin just getting more and more minutes as the games go on.
I think the Newcastle situation is a really good comparison because I've watched the Newcastle documentary, and at times Eddie Howe seems to have sort of mentally played Wilson and Isak off each other. Who's going to start this week? Because it could be either of you, and you see the bit between the teeth, and that's not a bad situation for us to be in at all. Just to stick with the manager, Judgy, before we do move on from the Brentford game, I could talk about it all night. An Everton win would be fantastic, but got to move on a little bit. Myself and yourself, we have criticised the manager at times, and what I would say is I think rightfully so. I think if you're looking not only in black and white, but also if you look in the weeds and the details, there's been times where I think we needed more from him. He got it spot on Saturday. I don't think we're in the business of having egos and sticking to our sort of, our opinion. I think it's right that we can change our opinion based on what we see. For me, he got it spot on Saturday.
Yeah, he was almost in a similar position, if you remember, going into that Brighton game as well, where you're starting to wonder where the points are coming from. You're starting to wonder whether the managers ran out of ideas, even in a short period of time he was there before the Brighton game last season, and he pulled that rabbit out of the hat. And I say the manager did because he set that team up in a way that made
go and win.
Yeah, but it made the opposition look poor, and I think that's sometimes half the battle, if not the whole battle, when you're playing a team like Brentford and Brighton. For me, 2 of the best teams outside of the top 6, certainly at home. Very, very difficult to play against. No one relishes going there. Both high on energy in terms of it almost look like, on paper, the 2 teams that you would least fancy us playing against. And we've made both of them look ordinary, if not really poor. And we've looked by far in both of those games the better team. Now, 2 things. One, I completely agree with what you're saying. You can't not praise the manager for the way he set that team up. I mean, I looked at the team sheet, and like yourself and like most Evertonians, I was disappointed to see what looked like a negative selection from a personnel point of view. You know, not least the selection of Garner in what looked like a right-wing position, but also Mikalenko still in there, who out of the fullbacks is the weakest attacking. But no, he nailed it. I think even that selection, Mikalenko being in there allows McNeil to play further forward because Mikalenko's not that interested or is maybe not that able to get involved at times, so he's happy to tuck in and stay defensive as a left back. I thought that, again, the position and positions that he played Garner and Takore in, I thought the way that he adopted Beto and giving him that confidence. And from the get-go, by the way, and this was something that me and Colin picked up in our last show, and from the get-go, we were looking for Beto, and there was balls going into his chest. We were trying to find him. Players were getting in off him. And you could see that he picked up on the areas in the last 2 games that we'd not done well enough in. And you could see the instructions from the get-go. You could see the game plan. The set plays were improved. Ashley Young was nowhere near a free kick or a corner for most of the game. It was all the things that you want from a manager. You know, he'd watched the game back. He'd looked at it, without, his goggles on or whatever. And he went, we need to do this better. We need to do that better. It was a breath of fresh air. So full credit to the manager. Hopefully now we can see that game being more of the rule than the exception.
Yeah, spot on. Completely agree. More of the same, please. And I think it's right that we just enjoy this. I mean, we do give praise to whoever needs it. I thought Mikalenko, I thought you spot on there by saying probably the weakest attacking wise. I thought going forward he was really good at times on Saturday. Everyone who wore the blue shirts, everyone on the touchline, really great performance at Everton Football Club. It's nice to be able to sit here and enjoy it. We are going to move on, Judgy. We've got 6. Go on, sorry.
Just a couple of mentions. I thought the centre-back pair are getting better and better with every game.
Yeah.
It's great to see the the confidence that, Brantwaite plays with. I thought he was slightly a fault for their goal, if I'm honest. It was a little bit immature in his play and his positioning and kind of going across the pitch to Tarkowski's side, but I thought he recovered well after that. I thought Ashley Young recovered so well after a dreadful start. To get a yellow card after 4 seconds, you're thinking, how's he going to survive here? But he just showed, maturity, the maturity and experience that he's got, and he grew into the game and ended the game really well. So again, as you were saying there, to a man, I thought they were all outstanding, and yeah, hopefully we can carry that into the next few games.
No, absolutely. I would love your comments, guys. Anyone who's watching on YouTube, leave your comments in. If you think we've not discussed an individual performance or you want to add to that, please do. We will try and get back to you. Like I said, Judge, we've got 6 social media questions and they're taking us in 6 different directions. So we're going to end the show on that. And Judgy's not seen the social media questions, so we're going to get the raw answer from him as well. I won't stitch it up, don't worry.
You're not asking me for stats on certain things.
No, it's nothing like that, don't worry. The next game that we play is Aston Villa in the Cup. There's 2 trades of thought here. Do you keep the momentum going with this team who've just won away and you unleash them again in the Cup? Or does one eye have to be on Luton? And maybe not waving the Cup game away, but sort of saying, I might start Patterson, I might start Danjuma, I might start Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I might bring Ben Godfrey in. Not what you think we'll do. What would you do on Wednesday night?
I would make somewhere in the region of 4 or 5 changes, if I'm honest, and that's not to toss the Cup game out the window, certainly not. But I think there are players there that are either chomping at the bit or have got something to prove, or both them things. And I think the last thing, the players you mentioned there and the players that I'll mention are all capable of commanding a position in that team at some point in the season. I think Danjuma will have a part to play as the season goes on. So I would probably bring him in, probably for McNeil, just because I think given the way he's played since he come back into the team, we can't afford to lose him. And I think he'll be a player against Luton, but I think Danjuma can give you something, can offer you something. I thought he's done okay against Villa away as well. I thought he looked like a threat. So I'd bring him in. I would bring Godfrey in. I would bring Patterson in. They would be my only changes at the back. I'd probably, and I'll get some criticism for this, and it's fair enough, I'd probably employ Godfrey at left back like Ancelotti used to, and just say, do the job that Mikalenko does and just tuck in. You don't have to go mad, from an attacking point of view, but you've got Danjuma in front of you. Danjuma's probably not going to get back much, so you're just going to have to be disciplined and stay in there. Maybe get one of the midfielders to muck in. I'd keep Ghana Guy in there because I thought against Doncaster we struggled when he came out of the team and we made lots of changes. I would probably, from a midfield perspective, tough. We haven't got a lot of depth in there when you look at the amount of midfielders that played. So you'd probably suggest that
you could maybe put James Garner central, bring a winger in perhaps, and mix it up that way.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. To be fair, you would probably go with 2 wingers. I'm not sure about the Calvert-Lewin one. I mean, I think it probably is a good game to play him in. Maybe get an hour out of him, and rotate that. Would he be tempted? I mean, I wouldn't start Chamiti given the way that he played. No. I think he's ready to start games for quite a while, but I think he might be one of the ones that comes in the game, depending on how the game goes. But yeah, I would be looking to make probably 4 changes, if not 5, if we can get the balance right.
I'll counter with what I'd do. I'd make 2 changes. I would give Ashley Young a break, and I'd bring Nathan Patterson at right back, and I would play Dominic Calvert-Lewin heads of Beto. And that's not, to go on to my earlier question to you, that's not comparing apples to oranges and saying who's better. I just think after scoring a great goal on Saturday, and he's got the bit between his teeth, he looks fit. The celebration with the away end, and he's came out after the game, hasn't he, and said that the Villa game was difficult for him. Sections of the fan base boos, and to bring that up, I think it hurt him. And now to counter it with a really good feeling he's in, I'd probably just stick with 2. But look, we'll find out on Wednesday. Judgy, I want to very, very quickly touch upon Luton on Saturday. It's difficult to talk about a game 2 games away because we don't know what's going to happen with injuries or, form and results on Wednesday night. What I will say is I'll be back on the channel on Thursday speaking to a Luton fan. That's all booked in. So we'll have a really good preview on Thursday night with a Luton fan channel. But this game for me, Judgy, when I look at the fixtures, this stands out as a must-win for Everton.
100%. And I think regardless of barring there's no injuries on Wednesday, and I guess barring Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming in and scoring a hat-trick or scoring 2, I would start the same team that played against Brentford. That's the greatest comparison to this game in terms of the importance of it, the pressure. Different pressure, obviously, at Goodison and expectation that we're going to come forward. But I think the way we attacked Brentford was a blueprint. We dominated that game, with the exception of the maybe five at a push 10 minutes that they had at the end of the first half. We dominated that game completely. And I think that will be the expectation from the Evertonians on Saturday. And I think that 11 should be capable of producing that again against, whether we're going to being disrespectful to Luton against a weaker opposition and a vulnerable opposition that's desperate to get their first win on the board. They're not going to make it easy. Obviously, they're going to sit a lot deeper than Brentford did. But another reason I think to probably play better, because if you're playing that ball up to him, he's probably more capable of again getting on the half turn, creating gaps in between the lines, whereas Calvert-Lewin probably feeds off a higher line like he did against.
Okay.
He probably will get the high line against Villa. So I don't disagree with maybe why he should play on Wednesday ahead of Beto. But for me, I played the exact same 11 against Brentford, going with the same attitude, hopefully, of going and pressing them high up the pitch, off the ball, winning balls up there, making it difficult for them, getting Doucouré in that area, getting Dwight McNeil and Garner in those pockets. I think we could hurt Luton, and I think if we can get a goal early in that game, I think it could be the first time under Dykes that we get 2 or more at Goodison.
Oh, I'd love it. And I think when you look back at last season, the shows we were doing at the end of last season, we look back at certain periods of the season and said, oh, that was crucial. I do think this week's a very crucial week for Everton in the big picture. I think a victory at Brentford, if you can follow that up by, I'm getting 3 wishes here, going through in the cup and getting your first home victory in a good style. I think this is a big week because I don't want to be negative here. No. But it's got the potential to go one way or the other this week with Luton at home and a cup
like
game.
I said before, if we lose these 2 games or we go out the cup and we maybe draw and play poorly against Luton, if not lose, again, like I said before, that Brentford game becomes the exception, not the rule, and the Brighton game is the exception, not the rule, and you're starting to think, well, this manager can't keep these players consistently playing in a certain way.
And we lose this feeling. We lose the feeling of we're feeling good and we want to go to Goodison feeling good.
Yeah. And I think, look, I'm not getting carried away. I think a strong performance against Villa, and whether we win or otherwise, look, it'll be great to go through. But I think if the players play with the same mentality and attitude, and we maybe get beat 3-2 or 2-1, and it's a really exciting game. And I don't think that the Evertonians would be going away disappointed. They'll stay behind the players, and I think they'll go into that game at Goodison against, again, with respect to Luton, a weaker team, and believe that we can turn them over and turn them over comfortably.
Couple of quick predictions, Judgy, before we move on to social media. I'll give you mine first. I don't think Villa are looking at this competition as something they really want to go for. I think they've got eyes on other things. I think it's a good game for Everton to play in. I think if we only make 1 or 2 changes, Everton will win the game 1-0, and I'll also go 1-0 on Saturday, Goodison, for Everton.
I'm going to go 2-2, and I think it'll go to penalties against Villa. 2-2 at the weekend as well, but I do think it'll be 2-2 this time. I agree with you, but I think they've got a decent second string Villa. Certainly, they've got a lot of attacking players who can come in who don't start all the time, so I do think they'll score. I think with the changes I'm expecting at the back, I think we'll give them chances. Luton on Saturday, I'm saying 3-0. I think we'll go for the throat against Luton, and 3-1 maybe at a push, but I'm hoping for 3-0.
I'll take any one of those scenarios. I'm sure everyone watching and listening would as well. If you are listening over on the podcast, if you're on your run, your commute, your dog walk, thank you so much for sticking with us for all these years. But we would really appreciate you jumping over to your YouTube and just watching the show, giving us a subscribe. Like I said, the stuff that we are doing, where we're going to the studios and we're getting amazing sponsors like Globe Gas and Heating and Bear Clothing, and working with such great causes like Alfie Squad. It's only because we can show them our reach, and you guys are a massive part of that. So thank you so much for sharing and subscribing and just following the channel. The guys who follow the channel and the social media judgy over at Across the Park PC have been quite creative and inventive with some questions, and who are we to say no to that? So I'm going to put them on you, and I might jump in on a couple that have got my attention.
I might say no.
We'll throw a few things in there. So the first one is Crowman on Twitter. He said, Judgy, how do you see Jack Harrison fitting into the side? Personally, I'd play him right wing. I'd move James Garner inside, Doucouré and Onana. That sound fair to you?
Yeah, I mean, to just answer the question directly, beautifully into the team. I think he gives us something that none of the players really have gotten at. All the players in the wide positions have got directness. I think Danjuma kind of got that kind of stop-start type winger where he puts his foot on the ball, wants to change pace or whatever. McNeil is very cute and clever in his play and likes to play in kind of short bursts. But I think Jack Harrison is going to give us something we definitely haven't got in there. It's directness, and he can threaten from outside the box in terms of cutting in or going on both sides. I think he's one of them who can get to the byline and get crosses into the box. So I think our forwards will thrive off it. But I think you've got to accommodate him, if that makes sense. You've got to kind of say to Jack Harrison, right, you go and play there, go and do that job, and we'll look after whatever bits maybe you don't do. I think what I've seen him at Leeds, he works hard, but he's not necessarily going to be the player who's just going to tuck in all the time. He thrives under Bielsa when it was like, that kind of all at, right up and at them style, and you get to the byline or you cut in, he'd shoot. But I think he'd be a really strong addition to the team when he comes in. I'm really excited for him to be fit. But did he mention about Garner going inside?
Yeah. So it's Crowman, and he's basically said that what he would do, Judgy, is he'd put James Garner in the middle with Doucouré and Onana, which means Idrissa Gana Guy moves out, and he'd play Jack Harrison on the right wing.
Yeah, so it'll be like so you've got a 5 or a 3, haven't you? So you've got your McNeil on one side, Harrison. The good thing about them, you could rotate the pair of them as well, because both will be happy either cutting in or going on the outside. I think they're two very different wingers. But yeah, it does give us more options then, because once you can push Garner inside, you've got an extra body in there. There's games, I think, now, as we have seen, that the Ghana guy is just not going to be up to it in the Premier League. And
that's fair.
Equally, I think there's certain games that you want to hook an Arna earlier on because he's just not having any impact. So I think it'd be healthy for us to be able to rotate those midfielders a little bit more.
He looks a good pro. Just to add on to it, I went to the under-21s game on Friday night at Walton Hall Park, and Harrison played 45 minutes, and he was everywhere. Now, not to say you judge someone on versus Norwich under-21s with no disrespect, but he just looked like someone who's going to work hard and be busy. So getting him into the team, quite an exciting prospect for me. Owen on Twitter, Judgy, he said, this is Owen's opinion. It's not ours, but we'll go for it. He said, it's pretty obvious, boys, that the manager doesn't fancy Nathan Patterson. Is it beneficial now to loan him out or sell him in January?
No. I think I agree that he's certainly preferring Ashley Young, isn't he? I think he knows what he's going to get from Ashley Young. I think what we've seen from Patterson is he can be a little bit hit and miss. I think it depends on the opposition, the style of play. I do personally like Nathan Patterson. I do. I think I was disappointed. Obviously, it's been vindicated now, but I was disappointed to see him come out of the team after the Sheffield United performance, because I thought that assist and generally a much better performance would have put him in a better position against Arsenal. He didn't play there, understandably, given that we were under a lot of pressure for a long period of the game, and maybe he wanted that experience. Again, I was half hoping for him to come in against Brentford. He didn't, but Ashley Young has a really good game. Yeah. It is difficult to see him consistently getting games. I think he will play on Wednesday, and I think that is a good chance for him again to maybe show the manager what he's got that Ashley Young hasn't got. I think what he has got, he's got 20 years on him almost. He should be a lot fitter. He should be able to get down the line. I think his final ball needs a lot of work. And I think he does need to be generally a bit better in possession, and I think that's at the moment where he's been lacking. But I'm a fan of Nathan Patton. I wouldn't be at all tempted to sell him or send him out on loan, because let's be honest, who else are we gonna get to, the one that we can afford, two, that we can bring in and know what we're going to get from it. I just don't see what we're gaining from selling him or sending him on loan.
Chloe18 on Twitter, she said, are there games that you'd play Andre Gomez in, seeing as the current midfield have looked disjointed so far?
No.
Next. Manny on Twitter, I'm sure this will get us talking.
No, just to give the question a bit more, because it's a fair point.
Okay, fair enough. Is there games and is there teams that you would drop a Onana and play a different level of play, the different style of player being an Andre Gomez?
I think it would be a game like the weekend where we're going to have lots of the ball. Maybe want someone to dictate play, and I think I wouldn't necessarily say there were games where you would start them very often. I think given the way that we play and the way what Sean Dyche wants from his midfielders. But if there's 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go, and you're looking for 2 or 3 subs to come off the bench and change the game, you maybe bring a winger on, a forwards, and you're going, okay, well, what can we do in that midfield to give us something different apart from Decore and Arna and Guy?
So would that be a Sheffield United last week, a 2-2?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think where you may be looking for someone who can get on the ball, dictate play, maybe look to, to switch the play, change the play, put the ball in behind when we need it, play that 50, 60 yard raking pass that, the Guy and an maybe not an Arna, but Decore is going to do. Yeah, I think there are games where he can come in and make a difference. I don't necessarily see him starting many games, but I definitely think he could come in and be, an orchestrator of things if we needed him to be.
Yeah, I think if he was fit, he might have started on Wednesday, but he's not fit. Manny on Twitter, like I said, this is probably going to get us talking, but anyone who watches this podcast knows that the most intelligent person of the duo is Judgy. So I'm going to give this one over to you a little bit. I'm not bottling it. I just don't understand a lot about the specifics he's asked for. He's referencing 777, and he said everything they bring with them into our football club is something I would not be doing. The more I read up on them, the more I fear how our football club would look under them in 5 to 10 years' time. Is it time for a fan ownership model to be looked at? Groups like you and other fan groups could cheer it. I'm not in the business of cheering anything like that because I don't understand it. But the fan ownership model, is that an alternative, Judgy, that the club could maybe look at? Would that work with Everton, do you think?
Not at this level, unfortunately. Not at this level of the game in terms of the finances you require. I mean, I know a few clubs really well lower down the pyramid that are fan owned, and their rationale for trying to get away from that fan ownership now is that they haven't really got the resources to kick on. I'm not going to name those clubs; it wouldn't be fair. But unfortunately, it's an idealistic. No, it's an ideology really of going.
It's a romantic idea that the fans own the club.
Ultimately, even if the fans owned it, you would still need significant investments, and once you get that significant investment, they require or they will demand some level of control over the club, which is only fair. It's like it's almost like owning a big, huge hostel, and you and all your mates staying in it, but you can't really afford to pay to stay there. You need someone else to come and pay the rent or to pay for your stay. And the minute they say that, they're going to say, well, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. And that's fair enough. They're paying their way. So, listen, as you say, it's a romantic idea. Just to go back to his original point, I don't disagree with him. I think I've said openly, I don't think that they're perfect owners by any stretch. But I think I've said certainly to a lot of Evertonians, a lot of our friends, is that if you believe what is coming out is rumoured, not only rumours, but what is coming from some very reliable sources, then we need money. We need that. Otherwise, there's a worse situation than what we're in now, just round the corner. So I do agree. I do agree that I think if they're there for a period of time of 8 to 10 years, they'll be in the Gillette and Hicks mould that Liverpool experienced. They will drain the club of of everything they've got, and they will probably take us to the brink where we are now. But let's if we look at it the other way, that
I fucking feel terrible here, lads.
No, they will though if they're there. For the follow. What's his name again?
Manny.
Manny asked, if they or suggested if they're there.
Yeah, he said in 5 years' time he's worried how we'd look as a club. Yeah.
I think if they're there for 5-6 years, then I would be worried as well. My suggestion would be they'll probably be here for 3 years. Hopefully the club on the pitch is in a better position, the stadium's open, etc. I think they'd snap someone's hands off for a double their investments they originally put in, and then they'd walk away. Hopefully that's where we get to. But no, I don't disagree, but I don't think fan ownership is remotely a possibility, unfortunately.
Okay, Kev over on Twitter, he said, I heard you boys talking about playing Beto and Lewin together in a 4-4-2. Why not a 3-5-2? We could play wing backs and keep our 3 central midfielders in there. Would that work, 3-5-2?
Yeah, it means bringing another centre-back in those, isn't it? And I would not want to see Michael Keane back in that team. I just said how impressed I was with the 2 centre-backs. I think, me and Colin were talking. It was more Colin that was pushing it, and I was kind of getting more convinced as the podcast went on. I didn't believe that Dyche was going to do that, even if I was hoping for it or half hoping for it. But I think all we were both looking for was just something different, and he's achieved that at the weekend. We've managed to get 3 goals. We've looked more dangerous whilst also looking solid. I think the minute you put another forward up there, and this was the argument of some of the people who commented on our Instagram and also on YouTube, the minute you put another forward on, you take a midfielder away, you probably make us easier to play against or break down. 3-5-2, if you had another centre-back, like if you look at Ben Godfrey could find the form that he has under Ancelotti, which was a few years ago now, then I wouldn't be against Ben Godfrey being on one side and Tarkowski on the other side or whatever. I could live with that, but I certainly couldn't live with Michael Keane coming back in that team now.
The last question I've picked, Judge, and thanks to everybody who did send the DMs and stuff to us. We really appreciate it. This is a question which you and Colin sort of touched upon for a good 15-20 minutes last week, so I think it's right for us to just have 5 minutes on it, maybe. So it's EFC Picks on Instagram. So thanks for your message. He or she been a big supporter of us since the first time we started this. He's asked us what is Bill Kenwright's legacy at Everton going to be, and what will Farhad Moshiri's legacy at Everton be when we look back in 10, 15, 20 years' time at this era? Now, for me, it's 2 completely, Bill Kenwright and Farhad Moshiri. What I will say is I think they both came in with great intentions. I don't think anybody wants to come in and whether you're using someone else's money or whether you're using your own money, you're still putting that money in. I think they both wanted success. Before I get to you, Judgy, I'll just say I think Farhad Moshiri fell flat on his face a lot quicker than Bill Kenwright did. I'm not the biggest Bill Kenwright fan. I do think there's times he maybe should have, let go. And I think Farhad Moshiri done more damage in a short period of time than Bill Kenwright has done. But I do think the legacy of both of those would be that they failed. What would you say?
Yeah, I think from Farhad, I think the one thing they had in common was they both let their egos get the better of them, for different reasons. Bill Kenwright's ego was like, I'm the Evertonian. I know what's best for this club. Me, and it was always about him. And to this day, it still seems to be about him in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's retaining his position, whether it's selling his stake when he does it, etc. But I think the difference is that Moshiri had the resources. I mean, Kenwright could have been just as dangerous as Moshiri if he'd have had them resources. Let's be honest, but he never did. But yeah, both equally, tarnished legacy. Because what Moshiri done, as you say, he done more damage. He's done more damage because he raised expectations exponentially, but wasn't able to live up to them. And that's a dangerous thing in any industry, in any game, in any sector. And a sector and industry as as football, which is got unrivaled passion, to raise the expectations of everyone, the fans, the players, every stakeholder in Everton, that we're going to be up there and we're going to be challenging, and to throw the money in to go with it, but to have no strategy to back it up. That was horrible. It was, and we'll be forever embarrassed about it. Let's be honest, as a fan base, we'll be embarrassed by how much we got behind that, how much we believed we were going in the right direction. So, Bill Kenwright for me, hung on too long, didn't get out at the right time. Again, let his ego get the better of him. Farhad Moshiri didn't have a clue what he was doing, and got carried away with himself. And again, will leave with his tail between his legs and the villain of the piece.
Yeah, the villain of the piece is the best way to describe it, because no matter what happens now to our football club, we can all see the difficulty that we're in, and it's over his stewardship, or he's the front of the stewardship, and I think we're going into some very dangerous territory at the minute where we need to be saved, and it's on his watch. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Bill Kenwright fan, but I would put a lot of it on the owner. Judgy, I wanted to end on that just because I think we're going through a lot of changes as a football club, and we're about to embark probably on a podcast as covering a lot of that. Our relationship with the club is good, so much so that we were invited down to Finch Farm last week to speak to Megan Finnegan. Now, the Women's Super League, which is growing and growing and growing. I think, judging in 5 or 10 years' time, that's going to be massive attendances, even more so than what it's getting, more TV deals. It was great for us to go down. I went down. I think it was you were due to go down, and things happened. I jumped down and spoke to Megan. We've both seen the show. Very proud of it.
Fantastic, yeah. Lovely girl and brilliant ambassador, like a lot of them are for women's football. I was down tonight at Marine watching my daughter train. But yeah, it's they've got a really good opportunity. Every woman who's playing football at a decent level now has got a really good opportunity to inspire the next generation. The Everton ladies are really fortunate. The club have got behind them. They share fantastic training facilities with the men. They've got a decent setup at Walton Park, obviously just over the road from yourself, Millsy, and I know you get down a lot. It was great to hear from them, and we appreciate the club, asking us to come down and speak to them, and we want to do whatever we can to support the ladies, because I think, again, certainly for me, both of us, father of daughters, and we want to do whatever we can to push that, and I think Everton have been fantastic in the way that they go about promoting the ladies and giving them that platform. But the podcast, again, it be great for our listeners to listen to watch. Brilliant surroundings, and massive thank you to Arash, who come and helped us as well.
Yeah, top
lad, yeah, and we'll be doing plenty more work with him. Just I thought you were going to take us in a slightly different direction before you spoke about Megan's podcast. We were getting accused, would you call it, of
do you know what? All this, I got just to go. We'll go behind the scenes. Me and Judgy will always be really, really honest with you. If anything, if you don't agree with us, it's fine. But we'll always give you honesty. We've had messages asking us, have we met anyone, whether it be someone who works for Everton Football Club, someone who potentially is going to come in and invest. I think a number of podcasts have stoked the fires, shall we say, with their own content. Judgy, we can clarify now. We have not met with anyone, have we?
We've not met with anyone from 777. No, the rumor, as you say, that a few podcasts were getting behind was that we've met with 777 at Finch Farm, and we've got some kind of intel. Whether I fueled that fire by maybe supporting 777's involvement in terms of the injection they're putting into the club, I don't know. It wasn't intentional, but believe you me, you guys would be the first to know if we did have something that we could tell, and we'd probably be made up that we've been invited down to meet.
Absolutely.
Whether they're the next villains of the piece or whether they're the heroes, it would have been a great insight for us. But no, contrary to rumours and speculation, we were down there, as you say, to meet Megan Finnegan, to support the ladies and to get some content out there, which as you're probably going to say, Millsy, will be the first of many.
Absolutely, and let's hope that the show with the women's team is that's the first of many that we do. There's lots of players and lots of staff I want to interview, Judge. I know you're the same. We want to be a big advocate of the women's game because we both support it. Both got young daughters who I know would be so proud if they captained Everton women, the same way we'd be proud of our sons captaining the Everton men's team. So we hope you enjoyed the Megan Finnegan show. I'm also back on Thursday. You're going to be sick of the sight of me. I'm doing a Luton show. Myself and Judgy are going to be doing the instant match reaction on Saturday night, come sunshine or rain. But as always, thank you for watching Blues, and please like, share, and subscribe. As always, Judgy, what do we say?
Up the fucking toffees.